Good evening, my artsy friends. Welcome to sort of a surprise, unscheduled Friday evening live um, outside of our regular Monday live. And I wanted to take the time to share my World Watercolor 2025 adventure with you. I mean, it was a blast. Now, of course, you guys know throughout the course of this month, I have tried my best to be as encouraging as possible to let you know that whether you painted a lot, whether you painted a little, or whether you just spectated and thought about the things that you were going to paint, it was all perfectly okay. Of course, I held my own feet to the fire and painted 31 days straight. Now, unlike previous World Watercolor months, I shared every single painting, all 31 days, over on the Thrifty Apprentice Instagram. So if you've been following throughout the month of July, then you've had a chance to see pretty much everything that I'm going to show you today. And if not, then this will be your first time getting a glimpse, and I really hope you enjoy. So, what I want to do is kind of start off with the things that I use throughout World Watercolor Month first before we jump into looking at the actual sketches. Most of the products that I used were all watercolor paints. And a few times here and there, I used a few other products. So let's just take a look. Now, I started World Watercolor Month off with using sort of a combined palette of Sennelier La Petite Aquarelle fine student paints that I augmented with a few Cotman paints down the middle just to kind of expand the palette and give me a more diverse color range to choose from. As we all know, both Sennelier and whether they get the credit that they should get, Cotman are both really decent paints. Depending on who you ask, one might be better than the other, but in my opinion, they pretty much ride the fence of being comparable to each other. And like all other art products, they work well together. So I painted about 7 paintings with those. Afterwards, I picked up. I wanted a little, do something a little different other than use paints. There are going to be some sketches that we're going to look at that I used Snow White water soluble fountain pens to create the sketch for that day. And I'm just grabbing a couple of those so I can show you what they look like in case you've never seen them without throwing stuff all over the studio. So they come with 8 colors, but when you order the pack, there's like 16 in there because they basically give you 2 sets of 8. I just pulled a few of them out so that you can see what I'm talking about. But basically, they are a dye-based, water-soluble, liquid-filled fountain pen that you can sketch and draw with like a regular pencil or a watercolor pencil, and then use water to blend the ink out, giving it a watercolor effect. They're super fun, they're super affordable, and you can find them on Amazon. Now, again, this brand is Snow White. I do know that there are some other brands out there, and this spelled SNOWHITE, one W, not two. Again, very affordable fountain pens, really fun. I had a lot of fun using those, but you guys have seen me use those before. Then I switched over to using my curated Daniel Smith paints, which I have inside my Crispy Rice Strawberry Be Watercolor Curious palette. So what I had in this palette are, 22 Daniel Smith paints. 6 of those are from the original Daniel Smith 6-color introductory mixing set. Then those have been augmented with Daniel Smith paint sticks that I bought open stock off of sites like Jerry or Blick. And then I have a few full liquid poured half pans that I picked up from Jerry's to add, making a total of about 22 colors. So yeah, you won't find them in this particular color arrangement in any of Daniel Smith's sets, but it works really well for me. And I will point out, as I always do, I love paint sticks because with paint sticks, you're getting pure pigment. Full on, straight out pure pigment with a thin piece of paper wrapped around it. And you're going to pay the same price for a paint stick as you would a tube, minus the aluminum, minus the plastic top. So I feel like they are a better buy, especially since they are roughly the same price. So I used those for probably about 9 paintings, if the truth be told, because World Watercolor Month really opened my eyes up to the fact that I really like Daniel Smith paints, like seriously really like them. So after using Daniel Smith, I moved into using Core. So once again, this is Core's 12 color set, which you can buy, that I removed from the original 10 and put inside one of Christy Rice's palettes. This is the Joy is Waiting 12 half pan or 6 full pan palette. And here you can see I have all of the Core half pans panned up. Now, the 12 color set was originally purchased in tubes, and then I just panned them up. Again, one of my favorite watercolor makers. And I was really happy. I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of really happy with myself because I didn't even intend to do it, but I used mostly American made products, um, which is a good thing because I tend to talk about test and review a lot of foreign products. And I don't want anyone to ever think that we don't have wonderful art products made right here inside the US. So I just kind of tried to spread it out. After that, I moved into using Artwell, which happens to be my favorite budget brand of watercolors outside of Million Pretty Excellent or Paul Rubens Kwame watercolors or Chame Kwame. That's what I call them. So Artwell, I do wholeheartedly believe is white labeled by Superior. I believe that this is their Superior Masters line that has been rebranded and renamed to be sold under the Artwell name. Now, don't take that to the bank. I don't work for either of these companies. I'm just basing that solely off of my experience with testing and reviewing countless paint sets over the years. So definitely like these paints. I use them in 3 or 4 of the paintings. We're almost done. Then I switched over to using M. Graham and Company. Now, this is a little curated set that I received from Christy Rice as a gift for kind of being a moderator and helping out with YouTube lives and her Palm Street lives. So, she really does take care of her people big time, and she put together this little curated set for me of M. Graham paints because she knew I wanted to try them. And a couple of months before this happened, I received a care package from one of you wonderful viewers. This one was from Tisa, and it was a panned up set of Royal Talon's Van Gogh 2 paints. And in that set, she also included a M. Graham cerulean. So I just threw that inside this M. Graham set as well. So I used that for a couple of paintings, maybe 2 or 3. These are some really good watercolors. I now kind of understand some of the hype behind them, and I will be doing a review on this set, so you can look for that to come up on the channel, hopefully sooner than later. And then lastly, I used Daleroni Aquafine, which again, like the Cotman or the Sennelier Fine Student Paints, I think is a pretty robust legacy brand. Depending on who you ask, student, artist, professional, whatever, the paints are good for what they are and for how much they cost. So I used Daleroni, and I actually used a Derwent Ink Tints pencil um, for 2 or 3 of the paintings. So that, my friends, are all of the actual art mediums that I use during World Watercolor Month. Now let's switch over and take a look at the substrates that I painted on. And it was my intention to try to keep this to one sketchbook. But let's be clear, that is not what happened by any means whatsoever. So I started out with the grand idea when I started World Watercolor Month that I would only paint in sketchbooks that I wanted to go ahead and use up, that was almost close to being completed. So the first thing I grabbed was my Arteza 140-pound cold press acid free sketchbook, which I've had for about 3.5, maybe going on 4 years now. Now, you guys may have seen this sketchbook throughout a couple of videos, and you've heard me kind of complain that the sizing has gone bad on this paper. another reason I wanted to go ahead and use it up. But I'll tell you something. When the sizing starts to go bad on your paper, it can really curve the painting experience. Like superbly curve it to the point where it can make it difficult for you to gauge the hues and the depth and saturation that you may need to achieve the overall painting that you originally set out to complete. So I only painted one painting in this book. And then after kind of complaining about the sizing going bad again, Tisa made a really good point to me, which was stop forcing yourself to paint on that paper. Of course, I've made the comment before. I do it because I don't like to throw things away. I want to use them up. But I only painted one in here, and we're going to look at it in a minute. So I use the Arteza book. Just know that when you buy budget paper, go ahead and use it. I mean, because your paper can and will start to lose sizing after a while, especially depending on the quality. So that's just something I feel like everybody should keep in mind. After deciding to abandon that, I ran by Jerry's and I picked up this little sketchbook, which is made by New York Central. They make 100% cotton watercolor paper that I am absolutely bonkers about. So when I saw this little sketchbook, I was like, oh my goodness, that's perfect. I can pick that up. I can paint on both the front and the back of the pages, and that'll be enough for me to go ahead and get through World Watercolor Month. Well, I got it home. I blocked off the page. I started to paint on it, and I quickly came to realize that this does not, in my opinion, seem like the same 100% cotton paper that I typically buy. I think this maybe have a cellulose content to it, or it may lean more so towards like a mixed media paper versus a cold press paper. Not a bad paper, but I did decide after doing one painting on it, this is not where I wanted to land on all of them. So I moved on to another sketchbook and I pulled out my Etchr Lab 100% cotton cold press sketchbook, and the God honest truth is, this is where most of the paintings ended up being. I am very, very, very impressed with Etcher Lab 100% cotton paper. Now, who white labels it? I honestly don't know for sure. I've seen a few influencers say some different things. I've watched a couple of videos where it's compared to and is believed to be white label and produced by Fabriano, and that it is their Fabriano Artistico paper. And if that's the case, I've made the proclamation several times. I am going to start investing in Fabriano Artistico paper on a regular basis because buying it under the Fabriano branding is actually more affordable than buying it under Etchr Labs. Now, what I've noticed about Etchr Labs is although they white label and they use other manufacturers to produce their products, they really go through their sourcing really well because they produce some really good quality products out of Etcher Lab. They are just they're rather expensive though. I have to throw that out there. So after I actually used up every page in that sketchbook, I moved on to a couple of other ones. So let's just take a look at them real quick. I've done a couple of paintings. I did a painting in the Hanamule bamboo mixed media sketchbook. I did a couple of paintings or a painting in my Light Wish 100% cotton cold press sketchbook, which I'm not sure who white labels this for white Light Wish, but it's a okay paper. It's an okay paper to be one. It's not the best 100% cotton paper that I've used, but it's worlds above a cellulose paper in my opinion. I painted inside a artist loft sketchbook that I picked up to turn into a swatching sketchbook. So this is at the point when I switched over to M. Graham paints. I swatched them out and painted the prompt for that day as a preliminary test painting for those M. Graham paints. Now this is a cellulose paper. This is Artist Loft Level 2 artist grade paper, which ironically enough, you've heard me talking about it over and over and over, and I finally got my hands on a pad of it on sale in Michael's the other day. And this is their Artist Loft Level 3 Professional 100% cotton paper. And it's so funny because it says this paper is made in Italy. And the only paper manufacturer that I know of in Italy is Fabriano Studios. Now, or Fabriano. On a side note, I took a trip to Hobby Lobby, And I've noticed that Hobby Lobby has rebranded the cover of their paper to include who white labels it. Blew my mind. First time I've ever seen a budget brand or a house brand actually specifically label what company is producing their products for them. Clear as day, bold as it is, Fabriano is printed on the front of Hobby Lobby's watercolor paper. Just some FYI in case you are a Hobby Lobby shopper. But as you can see, it is 100% cotton. It's acid free, heavyweight. It's mold made. It is extra white and it's a block, so it's glued on all four sides. Now, originally, Artist Off was selling this paper for too much money. I think, based on some information I've received from a couple of different people who I trust, Artist Loft is switching the way they do things in the background. So they may go through some rebranding, but they're definitely possibly going through restructuring as far as who produces and white labels their products for them. Therefore, most of the stuff that is out now is on sale. They're level two papers. You can buy one, get one 50% off. The level three papers, which are being discontinued, the professional levels being discontinued altogether, is on sale. I paid 30 bucks plus tax for this 12 by 16 20 sheet pad, 140 pound, 100% cotton paper. That's huge. I felt like that was a really good buy. You may can still find them. I actually did not find that in the paper section at Michael's. I found it over in the clearance section. So hey, if you curious about it, it is 100% cotton. They're huge pads. They're on sale. If they're close to your Michael's, check the clearance section and see if maybe they have a pad or two left. You might not be able to go wrong with it. I haven't tried it yet, but of course, I'll be sharing my findings with you guys once I do. And lastly, I painted inside this Light Wish travel size 100% cotton, 140 pound cold press sketchbook. Although it's sold under the Light Wish brand on both Amazon and the Light Wish site, you can see that it's a white labeled, product that is produced by the company Potentate, which is a Chinese brand. So I'm going to assume that Light Wish is just the distributor for this particular brand in the United States, because the only other place I've ever found it, this name, is on Temu. Just started out there, Temu and AliExpress. So that, my friends, are all of the sketchbooks that I painted in throughout World Watercolor Month. So now we can move on to actually looking at the things that were created. We're going to go through this. I'll be happy to answer any questions periodically. I will stop and check the comment section to see if there's anything I need to answer. And I'll check to see what you guys have been saying up until this point before we get started. All right, my friends. So for the month of July, we started off with day one being radiant. And I actually painted radiant inside this particular book that I wasn't really sure of the type of paper it was. And for radiant, I tackled painting a sun or a moon, depending on how you're looking at it, radiating from behind some palm trees over water with some flamingos. Now, what I decided to do at the beginning of World Watercolor Month was to hone in and kind of practice on certain things that I felt I needed to, get a little bit more practice in on, and try to incorporate them into as many World Watercolor Month paintings as I could. Um, the original idea was just birds in forms of wood in different shades, different hues. Eventually, I ended up adding glass to a few of them as well, which wasn't something I intended on working on, but I just it's what happened. So the flamingos on the beach with the radiating sun was what I painted for day one, and this was painted with that mixture of Sennelier La Petite Sennelier and cotton paints. So that's what it was painted with. Really enjoyed this. This one has a. Did it have a time lapse? I'm not sure if it had a time lapse or if I just showed it in the review for the paints that I used. I think I showed it in the review for the Sennelier paints. But that was day one. All right, let's move on. Let's look at day two. Day two was espresso, and this is when I decided, hey, I'm going to use up the rest of that Arteza sketchbook. And yeah, no, that didn't happen. I only painted one painting in the sketchbook. What I'm going to do, because it is sewn, it's a sewn book, it's bound together. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. So here, you can see it here. You can see that this type of sketchbook is sewn with its binding, sort of like I do my three-hole pamphlet stitch. Instead, this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, a 12-hole pamphlet stitch. So what I can do is I can cut the threading and literally go through and remove the whole pages. So what I'm going to do is cut the threading, tear this sketchbook down, go through, remove the paintings that I want to keep, and then the rest of the paper, I'm probably going to cut up into little, maybe bookmark size things to try to get rid of some of the edges where I know the sizing is really bad. But for day two, I painted this espresso latte in like a glass cup sitting on a wooden table with some coffee beans. And it was so much fun to get this done. I took the traceable, I cut the traceable out, laid it on top of the coffee once I was done. And then I used stencils and water-based dye ink in order to stencil in the background, sort of mixing arts and crafting together in order to create an entire composition. This one does have a time lapse on YouTube if you would like to check it out. Keep in mind, as I say all the time, when it comes to those time lapse videos, you can mute me and then use the gear icon at the either the bottom right or the top right corner of your viewer, access the playback speed, and you can slow those time lapse down to move at a much more comfortable pace for yourself. Put you some music on in the background and just kind of follow along. So never let yourself be intimidated by a time lapse on YouTube. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed the stencils. I was kind of proud of the way this one came out. My glass was a little lopsided on the bottom, but overall, I was pretty pleased with this one. And that was day two. All right, let's move on. After that book, I decided I was going to pull out the Etchr sketchbook because I knew I enjoyed painting on the paper. And before I knew it, I literally used the entire sketchbook. Like, it's all gone. I did not paint on both sides of the paper just in case I decide to remove these and sell them or whatever have you. So we're actually going to do a complete flip through of this sketchbook because it is done. It is complete. So everything won't be World Watercolor Month. Most things will be. Everything won't be a masterpiece. Some things will be quick sketches, but I'm going to share it all with you. So let's get started. Okay. So, well, let's move past anything that was World Watercolor Month. It's kind of out of order, but you'll get it. I used this sketchbook to swatch with. This is a curated palette I put together when I was putting together my Bamboo Voyager palette. And then we painted this little illustration. As you can see, that was May of 2024. A couple of months after I released that palette. Um, Inside this sketchbook, I have a lily. I was just painting one day. I don't remember. I think this may have a time lapse on YouTube as well. That was painted in May of 2024. There's this. I don't know why I have this thing with painting coffee. So here's a cup of coffee on top of a book with a couple of macarons sitting on a wooden table. I love to do still lives. This year has opened me up to really tackling animals and insects. But before that, I really painted a lot of still life and landscapes. So I would like to think that the year 2025 has broadened my horizon on the things that I paint, and World Watercolor Month has really helped me hone in on that. So challenges like this could be super beneficial to you as long as you don't let something like a word every day intimidate you when there are so many different ways to tackle it. Okay. And that was painted October of 2024. Let's see. Here is a tulip. I was kind of trying to do some loose watercolor painting. I am so not the best at painting loose. All of my paintings are tight and detailed. So This was an adventure for me. And believe it or not, this was harder for me to paint than a lot of the things we're going to look at through World Watercolor Month simply because I just don't think I have the knack for loose painting. But this turned out okay. And I'm not sure when I painted that, but it wasn't too long ago in all honesty. Here is a watercolor pencil landscape that was done on this paper. I want to say this was done with the Hippie Crafter watercolor pencils. And this too has a time lapse on the channel, and it was done in March of 2025. It's actually a lot easier than it may look to pull this composition off. Okay, let's see here. I think everything else in here is going to be World Watercolor Month paintings. So let's jump into it. So we left out on day 3. Let's see. Is it in here? Yes, it is. Like I said, it's weird how I have things in here. So day 3 was Ripple. And I just did this really quick landscape where I had a stream with the water rippling down through like a woodland, kind of hitting up against some rocks, shallow land here, just so you would know that there was movement in the water and it was just kind of rippling down. It was pretty easy, pretty fun. A lot of the World Watercolor Month paintings won't have time lapse. Some of them will. I'll let you know what they are. Some of them won't. So that was day 3. For day 4, the prompt was fade. And this is one prompt where I decided to not do the prompt and actually do my own thing. And I decided to work on another bird since I've already done the flamingos. This time I decided to work on a chickadee. Uh, I'm not sure if this has a time lapse. I can't really remember. Or did I do it inside Patreon? Can't really remember. Not sure if it has a video, but it was so much fun. Listen, it was so much fun figuring out basically how to just use black and white to pull off this bird looking fluffy, having feathers, having form. This type of painting is an excellent lesson in value. Monochrome paintings, period, are excellent lessons in value. And we're going to get to another painting that further explores kind of monochrome colors. So this is what I decided to do for fade instead of doing fade. Now, if you want to, make it fit the prompt, you can say that the background is faded. There you go. I don't know. You know, and that brings me back full circle to me telling people don't think so hard into the prompts. Literally kind of take them what they were for. Espresso, coffee, ripple. First thing you think about is water. Very easy to draw. Fade could have been anything from color fading to faded clothes to a faded sky, how it fades from more saturated to lighter as you look out across the horizon. There are so many different ways you could have tackled fade. I just decided to draw a bird. The point of World Watercolor Month was to create, not necessarily adhere to the prompts. So, yeah, just retouching on it. All right, so next up was day 5, which was lock. And for lock, I painted this old rusty lock on a hinge on a wooden gate door kind of looking out over the field. And this will be the perspective where, you're much taller than the gate. So the gate would sit at waist level or lower. So you would literally have to stoop down to look parallel with where the lock is on the gate. And I'm pretty sure as I paint this picture, many of you, especially if you're part of my generation, can see a scene in your head that you've seen in real life like this. So this was a lot of fun. It was actually sort of nostalgic. Although I didn't use one of my own photos from my own life, the reference photo that I found for this one really hit home for me. I really enjoyed painting this. It was a lot of fun. More so because I struggled a little bit with really getting down the rusty, metally texture of fading metal. But it turned out to be a lot of fun. And if you've never tried to paint rust, I wholeheartedly encourage you to give it a try. wholeheartedly. As a matter of fact, maybe one day we'll do a video on it ourselves where I kind of walk you through painting rust and show you how extremely easy it is once you figure it out. Okay, so next up was day six, hats, and I decided to explore Christmas in July. Now, I did not do as many Christmas in July paintings this year as I've done in previous years because this year I concentrated on doing all 31 prompts. But for hat, I painted a Santa Claus hat sitting out on the snowbank. Maybe it fell off while he was flying by. I don't know. It blew off if he was going down a chimney. I had all types of ideas and scenarios going on in my head as I painted this. Because I tell myself little stories and I make up little imaginary scenarios in my head about the things that I'm painting because they normally translate into me writing them down on paper because as most of you know for the last 2 years I have been working on trying to produce like this book, um, this whimsical tale that has all these whimsical paintings in it. And the idea has been honed and shifted over the last 2 years. At this point, is down to being a picture book that will have limited wording, but a creation book of actual paintings that has copyright free images in it that other artists can use as a reference to paint from. So that's kind of where it's going. Um, Now, that kind of got off of subject. I was just touching on that because I know some people have heard me talk about that before. But as I painted this, ultimately, once it was done, I thought to myself, this would be perfect for this year's Christmas card. Because they had us kind of sit off to one side, that leaves plenty of room on this side for wording to go. So, what I think I'm going to do is scan this into my computer, and I'm going to be using this as the front of a landscape Christmas card that is top fold for the year 2025. And I'll put some really cute gold foil lettering over here that says something all, holiday-ish and wishing well wishes for Christmas. That's what I'm trying to get out. Yeah, so that was hat. And I kind of struggled with that when I'll be honest. It took me a minute to decide what to paint for hat. And I think because I was so overwhelmed with the fact that there were so many hats to paint. And then finally, I just settled on Christmas in July. All right. Next up was day seven. Day seven was Melt, and Melt was actually a live here on YouTube that we did on a Monday for our regularly scheduled 11 a.m. Monday morning lives. Side note, that was a little plug. So if you didn't know, you do now know that we go live right here every Monday morning at 11 a.m. like clockwork, unless something happens, and I try to give you plenty of notice if something's happening, okay? So this one we went really literal with. We literally painted something melting. And in this particular video, I was trying to push the idea or stress to the viewing audience to not put so much pressure on yourself about the prompts. Sometimes you can just completely overthink the word. Just take it at face value for some of it and do exactly what it says. It said melt. The first thing I thought was, I hate for my popsicles to melt. So guess what I painted? A melting popsicle. And I shared that with you guys in a live. Absolutely. Absolutely. It was fun. You can go check it out under the live playlist if you missed it. Included wood for the stick. Let's see. I guess you can say we included wood. There's some indistinct trees kind of blurred out back there. We included wood here. So I was kind of, we included wood here, bird. So I was trying to still stick to the things I wanted to work on while adhering to the prompts. Okay, next up we had day eight, which was tired. And this one I posted and put a little synopsis over on Instagram where I was trying to show another way you can tackle World Watercolor Month without stressing yourself out. World Watercolor Month could be a wonderful time for you to go back and check out all those tutorials you wanted to give a try and you never had time, or all of those tutorials you read in a book. and step-by-step instructions that you wanted to give a try and you never had time. So if you didn't want to adhere to the prompt, you could have simply grabbed one of those videos you wanted to give a try, or you could have grabbed one of those book written instructional from an educational source that you wanted to give a try and painted it. So that's what I did. I have a list on YouTube, a private playlist, where when I run across videos from other influencers and other creators where I feel like what they created was just mind blowing, I will save it because I want to go back and give something similar a try later on down the road. So this was a video I had saved in my practice later playlist by Lindsay the Frugal Crafter, where she showed great detail in how you could paint a fox. And I thought that it would work really well for tired. Maybe he's sleeping. Maybe he's been trekking through the snow. I told you I make up a story for everything. He's been trekking through the snow, and by the time he got to this point, because it's hard to walk in the snow if you've ever tried. Trust me, from the Midwest, I can tell it's hard, especially when it's deep. It takes a lot of energy. So who knows? Maybe by the time he got to this point, he was tired. He needed to lay down and take a rest. So this is what I decided to do for prompt 8, which was tired. It was a lot of fun. I don't have a video on this, of course, but Lindsay does. Go check out her channel, Frugal Crafter, if you're interested. She has hundreds and hundreds of videos, just like myself, of demos, tutorials, be they time lapse or real time. And like myself, she does product reviews as well. And I do always kind of recommend people to her as an additional source because she has been doing it. Lindsay got 20 plus years under her belt versus mine 10, give or take. So definitely great source, great reliable source, depending on what you look for. All right, let's move on. Number 9 was home. Now, this one, again, I decided to go my own way, and it never failed. Whenever I was going my own way, I simply just painted whatever the hell I wanted to. I was painting birds, let's be clear. This was the first time. Oh, I didn't tell you guys what any of that was painted with. I'm sorry. Most of that was painted with either Daniel Smith or the Sennelier Cotton Combo. Now, this was painted with those Snow White water soluble fountain pens. And this is a little quick sketch of a kingfisher. I wanted to do something quick. I'd gotten home late. I didn't want to miss painting for a day. I wasn't truly inspired by home. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I was. The thing is, I was overwhelmed by the word because there was just so much that reminded me of home. I decided to go a completely different way and used 2 shades of blue and an orange. Um, a purple and a black fountain pen to create this, and it dissolved beautifully inside with the water on this paper. I love the way it turned out. It was really nice, especially for it to just be a quick sketch that I didn't really put too much work into. So that is what I did for day 9 home. Let's move on to day 10, which was turtle. And once again, I went my own way. Wait, nope, that's not right. That was tired. What did I paint for day 10? Let's see. Hold on. Let me check Instagram. What did I paint for day 10, friends? I must have done it in a different sketchbook too. No, that was painted for day 10. Aha. That's where I went wrong. Hold it thought. Let's bag up. That was actually painted for day 10. I was saying for home, I painted the bird. But actually, for home, I painted ice cream because it reminded me of home. I had to go back and look, check, did so many paintings. So here is what I painted for day 9, which was home. I did we did the watercolor calendar. So this would be a time lapse on the channel, and it'll be a full-time video, real-time tutorial over in the creation station level of the Thrifty Apprentice Patreon. Um, in case you're interested. And I do normally stick those links in every video description in case you're interested in checking it out. So that was day 9 home. Day 10 for turtle, I went the own way. I still painted a animal. So I did the kingfisher. And then we had day 11, which would have been spicy, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, day 11 was spicy. And for spicy, I painted the peppers. So first, and here again, I used the Snow White water soluble fountain pens. So first, I actually grabbed just a regular piece of printer paper because I wanted to see how they would dissolve on just regular like typing paper weight paper. And they actually did not work too bad on those papers. So I did that as my preliminary sort of practice sketch to get the peppers down. And then ultimately, this is what I did for the actual prompt. And again, I used those water soluble fountain pens. You'll be amazed at what you can pull off with those. They're so affordable and so much fun. I suggest them to everybody. I really do. Y'all should really give those a try. Especially if you're a person that doesn't really care about light fastness and you just, you enjoy painting with water soluble, bright, beautiful, bold colors. Um, Definitely give those fountain pens a try. Just remember they are dye-based ink versus actual watercolor pigment. All right, moving on. After spicy, what prompt did we have? We have day 12, which was a rumble. And for rumble, I painted a thunderstorm. Pretty easy. It was pretty easy for me to figure out what I wanted to paint for Rumble. Every time I hear the word, I think about thunder. Absolutely think about thunder. So um, that's what I painted. Yeah. And it was fun because it's sort of like loose, it's not super detailed. The only thing that was detailed in it was the actual lightning and the little gate so that your mind would pick up on the fact that this was a field that the lightning was striking out across. I made sure I did some really deep sort of thunderstormish clouds. This was fun. It was so wet into wet. Everything was wet in the wet with the exception of the gate and the actual lightning. Fun, fun, fun. I may go back and do another painting like this and actually sort of do a demo on it. I Either real time or time lapse. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up was day 13, and that was cavern. The first thing I thought about when I heard the word cavern was cave. And I kind of locked in on that and stuck to it. So then it became, how do I paint this cave? What perspective is it? So I decided to paint looking out of a cave at the landscape. And this is what I came up with. So I came up with the face of a cave, which you're looking out into a landscape. And maybe it's like that cavern is like just a hole in the side of the rock and there's nowhere for you to step down. So maybe you enter that cavern from the other end, but when you walk to this end that has the opening, all you're looking out across is ocean or sort of a seascape or a waterscape. I told you, I make up a story for all my paintings. And this was a lot of fun. This was a lot figuring out how to do it and make it read the proper way was fun. And of course, painting a landscape is pretty simple because I do it on a regular basis. And I just love this paper. I love this paper. I do. I love this paper. It has become my favorite paper. And I want to email Etchr Lab so bad and be like, would you just confirm for sure for me who white labels your paper? They probably won't, but I'm seriously considering doing it. Seriously. All right, let's move on. Next up, we had number 14. Day number 14 was stretch. And for stretch, I painted a swan. Of course, using the neck for the prompt. They have a stretched or an elongated neck, you know. Um, Again, I had fun with World Watercolor Month. I tried to make sure that I painted full compositions. Like I went in. And you know why I went in? Let me tell you why I went in. It wasn't to showcase it to anyone else. Although I shared it, it wasn't really to share. It wasn't for praise or anything like that. Even the videos where I showed you guys demos or full-time tutorials and kind of talked you through what I was doing to possibly help you along your painting journey, that was wholesome and it made me feel good. But the real reason I went in the way I did for World Watercolor Month was solely for the growth of it, solely for the happiness and the therapy of pain, and solely to see from beginning to end how practice on a daily basis could possibly change my pain. You have to do things like this for yourself. Even if you are a business owner like myself, you have to put yourself into this. You have to put your joy into this. That way, hopefully, it'll translate to other people, the people that are watching and that are sharing. So know that everything that I painted, it made me happy. I painted because I was doing it with love, and I painted because I wholeheartedly wanted to see myself improve in some areas. So there was the swan. If you're used to my paintings, you'll know I don't normally paint still water. So this was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We're almost on it. Okay, here we go. Day 15, and then we're going to check the comment section. Day 15 turned out to be a real time tutorial over in the creation station level of Patreon. And we basically painted the front of a crate. The word was dusty. And when I thought of dusty, for some reason, all I could see was like these dirty crates inside a warehouse or like an abandoned garage or, the wooden boxes that you find in like your grandmother, your great grandmother's attic or garage or basement that's got all of the old bottles in it, and you have no idea why these people are saving off these old bottles. They're just in this wooden crate. So that's it honed back to a little nostalgic memory for me, and I shared it with you guys, and it was a lot of fun. We used gouache. This was the first time I open tested and used the Arteza Jelly Gouache 24 count set. And we also used a stencil in the water-based dye-based, the water-soluble dye-based ink again. Okay, so that is what we tackled for Dusty, because when I thought of it, that's what it gave me. Okay, so now that we've reached day 15, before we move to the rest of the month, I'm going to jump into the comment section, see if there's any questions I need to answer, excuse me, and then we're going to jump back in. All right, day 16, the prompt was geode. So let me tell you about this prompt. Not too long ago, and I'm going to show it to you guys. Well, I say not too long ago, but it was a couple of years, maybe about 2 years back. I painted this illustration. Um, where is it? I know it's in this book. Okay, why is it trying to make me feel like I'm crazy? Hold on, give me a second. I know it's in here. I painted crystals. That's what I'm getting to. I was trying to show it to you. But I painted a set of crystals. And man, when I tell you those crystals, although they came out okay, the refractions in crystal kicked my backside. Considering the fact, maybe now where in the world is that painting of those crystals? I wanted to show it to you. Long story short, I decided to go in a different direction and still paint something that was really shiny, maybe sort of crystal-like, um, glass marbles. So here is what I painted for Geo. Again, I saw, years back, I saw something about it painting marbles on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's something I want to give a try. I should paint some glass marbles. And when I thought about the word geode, I'm not sure why glass marbles popped in my head, but they did. So that's what I painted. All right. I can't find it. I could have sworn it was in this book. We'll do a flip through of this book before I actually break it down, deconstruct it, and we're going to turn the jacket into a new sketchbook in a video. I no idea. Where is that painting? I'm so upset. Where's that painting? I thought it was in that sketchbook. Now I guarantee you it's in there and I'm overlooking it. And I'm gonna flip through that book when this live is over and I'm gonna find that crystal. I'm gonna be so upset with myself. Because I'm more than sure I painted it in that artista sketchbook. Anyway, um, let's move on. Next up, we had day 17, which was chair. And this one came out as both a time lapse on YouTube and a full time painting demo over in the Creation Station level of Patreon. So if you're interested in anything like that, definitely check the video description of any of my videos and you will find the link for Patreon there. I'm not sure if I put it inside the video description for this live just yet. But it was cheer, and again thrown back to being a kid. This wooden chair sitting outside of one of the houses I frequent as a kid. So I found a reference photo on, was it Unsplash? I think it was, of a a red wooden chair, and that's what we painted. So you can definitely check out the time lapse on YouTube, or if you're a member of the Creation Station and you haven't given that one a try, I would definitely suggest go give it a try, give it a paint, and enjoy yourself. All right. Next up, let's move on. I don't know where that. Oh, yes, I do. I know where it is. I'm not going to get up and get it. It just hit me where it is. I put it inside a portfolio. Okay, I remember where it is. All right. Next up was day 18, which was rigid. And here is what I was talking about earlier, where I told you a little later on we would see a video where I kind of pushed um, painting monochrome a little further. And here I use different shades and variations of green in order to draw and paint this cute little bird I found on Unsplash. Oh my God. He was so cute. And I was like, I have to paint that. I have to paint it on top of the fact that green is my favorite color. And he just looked so fluffy, like I just wanted to hug him. Now he wasn't on a 2x4, but the rigid was kind of in the back of my head, and I was trying to tie the word into the painting with the bird. And I know that wood can be rigid, splinters, all those good things. So that's why I went with putting the 2x4 for him to be perched on versus like a branch or a stump or something of that nature. This is also, is this a time lapse? Yes. This is, maybe it just came out this past Wednesday, actually. I think it did. So you can, yeah, you can find this on YouTube as well. So give it a try if you want to. Remember to slow down the video thing for the time lapse. Next up was day 19, perform. And this one was easy for me. Whenever I think about the word perform, I do not know why dolphins pop in my head, but they do. And here I went back to the Snow White water soluble fountain pens. It was really quick. It took about 15 minutes to do this entire composition. It was so quick and easy to do. And I really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. All right. Um, let's see. Next up, we had day 21. Day 21 was home. So for home, I painted a kitchen scene. That's right, a kitchen scene with cutting boards because we cook in my house. Baby, we cook. The kitchen is always throwing down. There's like three, four, five different cutting boards, and two or three could be getting used at any given time. We eat over here. So I decided to do the three shades of three cutting boards. So I found a reference photo, and what I really loved about the reference photo is that it had a background where the cutting boards were sitting up against a wall where the paint was cracking, and it was something that I've never painted before, and I wanted to take on that challenge. I wanted to see if I could pull off the effect of making the paint on the wall look like it was cracking, and it was so much fun. And as you can see, I threw some added to the composition through some cups, some glasses of water in there, and it's sitting on a shelf here. So a lot of fun. I really enjoyed tackling this background in it. I'll tell you another secret. It was the first time I used buff titanium as much as I did. I used a lot of buff titanium in this composition. I sure did. I like this one. This is one of my favorite ones, honestly. Next up was day 21, street food. And for street food, we did a live right here on YouTube. Let me see. And it's towards the beginning of this book. Here we go. Street food. We painted corn dogs because it's one of my favorite street foods. Most of you may know I am a native in a circular of the Chi-Town, and corn dogs, hot dogs, Garrett's. Well, I'm sorry. Let me be more specific. Corn dogs, Chicago style hot dogs, Garrett's popcorn, and brick oven pizza are staples. Absolute street food staples. It was very easy to go this direction with painting for street food. So I found a reference photo of some corn dogs, and kind of cropped the picture out so that the reference photo I was painting from would only kind of be showing the table, the container the corn dogs was in, and just a glimpse of what was an adult beverage that I turned into lemonade for the sake of our live, just in case, because I do try to keep it kid friendly, just in case a parent decides to show that to their kid because a kid wants to learn to paint or paint along or something. I'm always trying to be as considerate as possible. Um, yeah. So next up was day 22, which was jacket. And I took this one in a completely different direction. I kept thinking to myself, people are going to expect me to do clothing because of my design background. I know it. And lo and behold, Tisa said exactly that when I showed what I actually painted for the word jacket. And I told her, I said, I knew it. I really kind of felt in my soul that people were going to be expecting me to draw clothing, which is exactly why I went in the direction I did. And instead of drawing a jacket, I drew and illustrated a yellow jacket. Get it? Yellow jacket. This was fun. This was fun. I enjoyed painting this insect and watching him come to life, getting the little details in his wing, getting a little hairy texture that's on the body, the pattern on the different parts of his body, right? The proportion of the antenna, considering how zoomed in the reference photo was to the actual subject of the photo. So much fun. And I really hate I didn't record this one. This was one that I looked back after I was finished and wish that I had just kind of turned the camera on like I did with some of them, just so I'll have footage to use for later on down the line. A lot of fun. Enjoyed it. All right, moving on. Next up was day 23 group. And let's see, for group, I drew a group of macaroons. Macarons, I'm sorry, not macaroons. Macaroons and macarons are two completely different things. I drew a group of macaroons because I like food and I like sweets, and it is what it is. This is another one where we use Daniel Smith watercolors, if I'm not mistaken, but then I cut out the sketch that I did on a scratch paper and used it to block off the actual macarons, and then used the butterfly stencil and some water soluble dye based ink pads and stenciled the butterfly design into the background. Lots of fun. It was lots of fun. I really like the way this one turned out. It's sort of on the sort of illustrative side, but I really love the color vibrancy I was able to achieve with this. Painting on this paper, though. Now, here's a funny story. So, if I was to lift this painting, the actual page under here has the original sketch for the espresso painting. So, the original sketch for, see, I keep putting this book out. So, the original sketch for this painting was actually going to be done on this paper. And then I decided I wanted to paint in a bigger sketchbook for what I was painting. But that left this particular page with paint on it, and I already had started to ink in the cup. So there was no way for me to I could have gessoed over it, but instead I took a piece of Canson 117-pound graduate watercolor paper because it's only 117 pounds and it's thin, and I knew I could adhere it to the sketchbook page and it would lay flat enough to not cause bulk, and no one would recognize right off that that page was added in unless I did what I just did and pointed out to you. So this page is actually Canson 117-pound cold press graduate level watercolor paper. I said that to make this point. I could definitely tell the difference. It took many more layers to achieve the saturation that I wanted. And in order to achieve that saturation, I actually had to push it more illustrative, more storybook fantasy than the realistic ish paintings I'm normally going for. Although I feel like you can look at it and tell what it is, you know. So I just thought I'd give y'all that little tidbit. But yes, that is Canson graduate level paper glued down on top of a piece of that Etchr sketchbook paper because I messed up the original painting underneath. Or should I say, I decided to move on to a bigger book to paint the painting that was being painted underneath. So, hey, there is never a mistake, always a happy accident, always a way to correct. And that, my friends, is every single page of this Etchr sketchbook, every single page. All right, let's move on. Next, we had day 24, which was avocado. And I'm going to tell you now, I did not paint an avocado. I decided to paint another bird because that's what I was practicing on, especially for the prompts that just didn't expire me. So I painted this on Soho Urban Artist 140-pound cold press, 25% cotton, 75% cellulose. And if it wasn't for the fact that this paper is produced in Malaysia, according to Soho, I would have sworn that this was Fabriano Studio paper. I would, couldn't have convinced me that it wasn't. The thing is, Fabriano is produced in Italy, and Soho has assured me, Jerry's Autorama, because it's one of their house brands, Jerry's has assured me, and it's also printed on their packaging that this paper is produced in Malaysia. So that just threw me for a loop. Nonetheless, I painted this little fluffy duck. And again, I went and pulled off a save for later, my save for later playlist, you know, and kind of washed through and then found me a reference photo and did it. Really fun. That's another one that you can check out over on Lindsay's channel. All right. That was day 24. Let's move on to day 25, which was how. Now, for how, where did I put how? I think how went in this sketchbook. This is the Light Wish 100% cotton sketchbook. No, how is not in there. Where did I put how? Hold on, give me a second. Maybe this one I tried the bamboo paper. It was. So doing how was the first time that I tried this Hanamule bamboo mixed media paper. Um, I don't want to give a complete opinion on this paper yet, because the truth of the matter is I only painted one painting on it. It's 90% bamboo. It's 10% cotton rag, which in my head meant that it should be a really great paper to work on for all different media types. It's 125 pounds. So for how, I decided to keep it super simple. It is very storybookish, and that's kind of where I was purposely pushing this one to that. Um, because I wanted to paint a silhouetted wolf kind of howling in the moonlight with some stars. So that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. Um, it turned out okay. I'm not sure just yet if I'm sure I like the way watercolors handle on this paper. I am not going to give a judgment just yet. I'm just going to say from the first painting, uh, it didn't go as smoothly, even though I did a real simple silhouette painting. It didn't go as smoothly, especially with the layering in the moon, as I expected. But it wasn't a terrible experience. So I'm going to hold off. I'm going to do a couple more paintings on this paper before I just give a complete overview of what I think of it. So that was day 24. That was how. Moving on to day 20. No, that was day 25. I'm sorry. How. Moving on to day 26, which was C. And again, I went back to my Soho Urban Artists watercolor paper because it's on a block and I can paint all the way to the ends without having to tape anything down. And I painted this little side view of this little cottage that was on the beach. I found this reference photo on Unsplash. Yeah. Mhm. It's not a masterpiece. I was painting fast. I wanted to get the point across, and I did. And that was kind of the same thing for the very next one, which was day 27, Drift. And I actually didn't paint day 27 into the day after because I was still trying to figure out what to paint with Drift. Then I was tackling, trying to get the depth and the different saturation and hues of color that I wanted in the water underneath the lily pads. I used, what do you call that stuff? Drawing gum, masking fluid for this. And anyone who's ever watched me paint knows that I really don't use masking fluid like that. I'm not the hugest fan of it, but I will use it in illustrations to show how it can be used. And what I hated, hate is a strong word. What I disliked, once I removed the masking fluid, it gave me some really kind of jagged outlines and it really made the illustration look like it was being cut and pasted. Like I cut the lily pads out from one piece of paper and pasted them on top of the water. So that's why they look sort of as roundish or as illustrative as they do, because I was really working with darkening the edge in order to kind of round those out and just make that little texture that the masking fluid left behind feel a little bit better to me when you look at the picture. So that was day 27, 26 home. Oh no, 26 was, what was it? C. And day 27 drift. All right, let's move on. We're almost done. Yay. We're almost done. We're almost wrapping. All right. Next up is day 28. Day 28 was weave, and we painted this one together in a live not too long ago. This is painted on the Light Wish 100% cotton paper, and I painted some blueberries, which was easy. I put wood because I was painting, I was still working on my little things. And then we did a basket weave where we put down a base layer with paint, and then I showed you how to do the weave texture using a watercolor pencil, actually, and then how to take a brush to go back in and make that weave texture look lifelike. It was a lot of fun. It was fun. Go check this one out. It is a live video, and it has been edited. It does have edits to it now, so all of the talking will be cut out, so you can just get kind of straight to the point in the meat of the video. All right. So that is day 28 weave. Moving on to day 29. Day 29's prompt was submerge. Okay. This is one of my favorite paintings I did this for World Watercolor Month, friends. Listen, so I took the curated set of M. Graham and Company paints. I ran by Michaels. I purchased this hard back sketchbook because I wanted to start using one size of sketchbook to do my swatches in. That way, on one side of the paper, I could put all of the swatches. At the top of the next side, I could put all of the color mixing, the flow test, the salt test. And then at the bottom of the parallel page, I could actually do an illustration for the first demonstration. So that's kind of why I picked this book up. And you'll notice the first page has nothing on it because I'll eventually illustrate this with wordings or something, swatch book 2025, whatever, something. So this is how I want every layout in this particular sketchbook to look, where you'll get sort of a full representation of the paint set that's being tested. You'll get the swatches with the name and the colors and the pigment information, the transparency information, the light fast information, all of the artist information listed. At the top of the very adjacent page, you'll get the two different type of color mixing test, a flow test, and I still haven't done the salt test on this set, but I will do it before I get around to releasing the review. And then, of course, a preliminary painting with each set. Now, the prompt here was submerge, and I was determined to tackle rocks underwater. I was determined to. Now, I'm going to throw this out. This is Artist Loft Level 2 artist level paper. It is 100% cellulose. It is 100% cotton. I mean, 100% cellulose, 140-pound cold press. Is it the best paper? No. Do I like it better than Canson XL, Strathmore 400? Yes. Not Strathmore 500 because that's a 100% cotton paper, but better than Canson XL and better than Strathmore 400. I prefer Artist Loft Level 2 artist level paper. Okay. I love the effect I was able to achieve on this paper. And I was so scared when I first started out that because it wasn't 100% cotton, I was going to actually lift the paints off the paper more when I went to do the swooping effect to really submerge those rocks underwater. And it did not lift. I was so proud of this paper. So I stand 10 toes down in the fact that I think that Artist Loft Level 2 paper is a great practice practice paper. Okay, absolutely, absolutely. So that was Submerged. I had a lot of fun doing this one. I kind of want to do maybe a series of paintings that have submerged objects that you can see with shallow depth. Um, I really this inspired this particular prompt inspired me. All right, let's move on. We're almost wrapping. We're on day 30. Day 30 was ornate. And ornate, although it has not come out as a time lapse on YouTube yet, it has already come out as a full real time painting tutorial over in the Creation Station level of the Thrifty Apprentice Patreon. And we drew an ornate moth for this. Um, of course, coordinate is basically complicated pattern. So there are so many different ways you could have attacked this prompt without stressing yourself out at all. I drew and illustrated a wasp earlier in the month. I wanted to tackle another insect. So it was really simple for me to just type into Unsplash patterned insect. And it gave me a slew of pictures to choose from. I settled on this beautiful moth, and we took time to paint it step by step over in Patreon. And in the next week or so, it will be released as a time lapse on YouTube. So if you're not a member of the Patreon and you just want to wait on YouTube time lapse, it will be coming. All right. So that was ornate. And then we had the final day, which was day 31, tower. And I stayed to this sketchbook, which again is 100% cotton cold press paper, and found an illustration I just typed the word tower into Unsplash and went through a couple of pictures until I found something I thought would be appropriate to paint in this size book, knowing that I was going to be doing it on a two-page spread. And this is what I painted. Now, this is painted with De La Roni Aquafine watercolors and a Derwent ink tints, sort of yellow ochreish pencil. I think it's called Earth, if I'm not earthy, or something earth is in an earth ochre or something of that nature. But it's a really nice sort of light yellowish brown, almost yellow ochre leaning color with a little less saturation in it, but with a lot of saturation because it's an ink tints pencil, which you know is hands down bright and vibrant. So I painted this little lighthouse, wanted to get the brick texture in, some water, a little simple background because the actual lighthouse was the focus. Now I noticed after I finished the picture that my tower is leaning just a little bit, but who knows? Maybe it's weathered. It's been out there for decades, and the foundation may be starting to go back. See, I told you, you can make up a story for any of your paintings and make it so believable. So there you have it, friends. There you have it. That is 31 days of World Watercolor Month wrapped in a nutshell. I am so hoping that you guys got some type of enjoyment or even some inspiration. Maybe you saw something you want to go give a try, you know? Find your reference photo of something similar, or if it was actual a video release, maybe you want to go check that video out and give it a try. Amazing time painting these 31 paintings. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support during World Watercolor Month. For those of you who showed up to every single live, showed up to every single pre-recorded release and commented on it, showed up to every single Patreon live, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you, and I really enjoyed sharing World Watercolor Month with you. Now, couple things that are coming up so that you will know. Of course, when's this upcoming? Well, where are we? We are Friday. We're on Friday. So Monday morning, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, we will have our regularly scheduled um, YouTube live. And we're out of World Watercolor Month, so it's definitely going to be a surprise what we'll be working on. And then, of course, Monday night at 8 p.m., we will be having our regularly scheduled Creation Station Patreon live. So if you're a part of the Creation Station, that'll be going down. Over the next couple of days, without a shadow of a doubt, because I've already recorded it, there just needs to be edits done. The release of the review for the Karen Dosh full 72 count Museum Aquarelle watercolor pencils will be dropping. So you'll get to hear my 2 cents and opinion on that particular watercolor pencil set. Um, Trying to see if I'm forgetting anything. And then, of course, Wednesday of next week, we'll have the pre recorded release. There are going to be some special videos dropping throughout August because moving into September, we'll be moving into a challenge, a 15-day challenge, which is Thrifty Cheap Art, the Thrifty Cheap Art Challenge. And this year, it has progressed into a 15-day challenge versus 1 day, like it's been in the previous 2 years. And then, of course, in November, we'll be moving in, well, in October, there's Inktober, which I always participate in. And then in November, we'll move into my second art challenge, which is Thrifty Pastel Month, which is a 4 prompt month-long challenge. So basically, one prompt a week throughout the month of November to tackle with your form of pastel, be it oil pastels, chalk pastels, pastel watercolors, pastel gouache, pastel color pencils, pastel tone alcohol markers. You can use any medium, you just have to keep it pastel. So, um, all of that will be coming up. And then, of course, December, you know, we go all out for Christmas paintings in December because I'm a big Christmas buff. The season of it, the spirit of it all, not all the extras that come along with it. All right, friends, this has been a ball. I did not intend on being on 2 hours, but here we are. Of course, this will be have edits done to it for replay to make it more flip through friendly for anybody watching it in syndication. And I will be doing those edits on tomorrow. For those of you who joined me live, thank you so very much for your comments, for your participation, and for taking time out of your busy schedule to come over here and share in this art um, flip through sharing with me. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys go out, enjoy your weekend, paint, draw, illustrate. Don't put yourself under a lot of pressure. Be kind to yourself. Forgive your mistakes. And I will see you guys back here Monday morning, 11 a.m., bright and early, where we will be tackling a full time creation of some type. I'm going to save it till you see the actual advertisement goes up. Until then, enjoy your night. And remember, as I tell you at the end of Gum Eric. Gum Eric. Yes, you can put a vehicle in it. Just make sure that whatever you put in it, there are a couple different mediums you can put in it. I normally suggest glycerin because you can pretty much get it anywhere. Like seriously, you can pretty much get glycerin anywhere. Um, Even at some of your local big box stores. And it stretches and it goes a long way. And it's a humectant. It really helps to hold moisture into paint. So that's normally why. You could also use a little small drop of honey. That's if you're okay with adding honey to your paints. A lot of people are not honey based paint lovers, so I tend to stay away from suggesting that one. But I definitely suggest glycerin on a regular basis because it's very, very budget friendly and it works amazingly. But if you already have another vehicle, I definitely say try it. And if you have any doubts or questions about it, you can email me. I'll be more than happy to answer, or you can simply Google it because Google actually has a lot of information out there. All right. All right, friends, that's going to wrap it up. Night. And remember, as I tell you at the end of every single video, just keep creating, my friends.